I'm 61, and there's a truth I need to say out loud. Not because it sounds dramatic, but because it's real. And because I wish someone had looked me in the eyes years ago and told me the same thing without sugarcoating it. I learned this too late, and that is exactly why I'm saying it now, while you still have time to do something with it. For most of my life, I believed time was patient, that there would always be a later, a calmer season, a better moment to take care of myself, to chase what mattered, to speak up, to slow down, to get stronger, to fix what I was ignoring. I believed that as long as I was busy, as long as I was responsible, as long as I was surviving, I was doing enough. And from the outside, it looked like I was. I worked, I showed up, I paid bills, I carried responsibilities on my back like proof of my worth. But inside, something quiet was slipping away year by year, and I didn't notice it until it was no longer subtle. At 61, you don't wake up one morning and suddenly feel different. It's more like you wake up and realize how long you've been tired, how long you've been postponing yourself, how many small warnings you ignored because they didn't feel urgent at the time. I used to think strength was about endurance, about pushing through, about not complaining, about keeping your head down and doing what needed to be done. No one told me that strength is also about preservation, about paying attention, about protecting your future self, even when today feels manageable. No one told me that neglect doesn't announce itself loudly. It whispers, it waits. It lets you believe everything is fine until one day you realize you've been borrowing against your own body, your own energy, your own peace for decades. I learned too late that your legs don't weaken overnight. Your balance doesn't disappear in a week. Your confidence doesn't fade in a single year. They erode slowly, quietly, while you're busy being useful to everyone else. I learned too late that walking through life on autopilot is dangerous, especially when you're told that aging is just decline and that slowing down is inevitable. Because once you accept that story, you stop fighting for yourself. I believed that getting older meant accepting stiffness, weakness, aches, and limitations as normal. And because I believed that, I didn't question it, I didn't challenge it, and I didn't act early enough. And that belief cost me more than I want to admit. It cost me confidence when I struggled to get up from a chair without thinking about it. It cost me pride when stairs felt heavier than they should. It cost me peace when I realized how fragile independence can become if you don't defend it daily. The hardest lesson wasn't physical, though, it was mental. I learned too late that constantly putting yourself last doesn't make you noble, it makes you invisible to yourself. I spent years responding to urgency instead of importance, reacting instead of choosing, and telling myself that once things settled down, I'd focus on my health, my strength, my life. But things never settled down, they just changed shape. There's always another responsibility, another distraction, another excuse that sounds reasonable in the moment. And before you know it, decades pass, and you're left negotiating with consequences you could have softened if you'd acted earlier. I learned too late that ignoring your body's signals is not resilience, it's denial. And denial always collects interest. I ignored the small signs because I could still function, still get through the day, still tell myself I was fine. But fine is a dangerous word. It keeps you comfortable enough not to change and uncomfortable enough to slowly decline. I learned too late that health isn't something you check on once a year. It's something you build or lose every single day through small, boring, unglamorous choices that don't feel heroic but matter more than anything else. I also learned too late that fear disguises itself as practicality. I told myself I didn't have time to train my body, to stretch, to strengthen, to rest properly. But the truth is I was afraid of starting, afraid of seeing how far I'd let things slip, afraid of confronting myself honestly. And avoidance feels easier than accountability until avoidance becomes limitation. At 61, you begin to understand that independence is not guaranteed. It is earned and re-earned through discipline. No one warned me that once strength declines past a certain point, rebuilding it becomes harder, slower, and more mentally demanding. Not impossible, but unforgiving of delay. I learned too late that movement is not optional maintenance. It is survival insurance, and that the body rewards consistency far more than intensity. I thought doing a little walking was enough because it felt good and it felt safe. But no one told me that comfort doesn't build resilience, that without resistance, muscles fade, balance weakens, and bones lose their strength quietly. I learned too late that protecting your future self means being slightly uncomfortable today on purpose. It means choosing effort when comfort is tempting, choosing awareness when denial feels easier, choosing routine when motivation is unreliable. I also learned too late that your mind ages faster when your body is neglected. Confidence shrinks when you don't trust your balance. Your mood darkens when movement disappears, and your world slowly gets smaller when your energy drops. These changes don't come with alarms. They come with subtle adjustments, fewer outings, shorter walks, more sitting, more hesitation, until one day you realize how narrow your life has become without you consciously choosing it. I'm saying this now because if you're listening and you're younger than me, or even my age, you still have leverage. And leverage is everything. You still have time to reverse momentum instead of just managing decline. I learned too late that waiting for motivation is a trap. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. I waited to feel ready, to have more time, to start next month, and every delay felt harmless until it wasn't. I learned too late that discipline is not punishment, it's protection, and that the routines you resist today become the freedoms you keep tomorrow. The truth is, no one is coming to rescue your strength, your balance, your health, or your independence. Doctors can advise, family can encourage, but the daily work belongs to you alone. I learned too late that taking responsibility for your body is not selfish. It's an act of respect for the life you've been given and the people who rely on you. And here's the part that hurts the most to admit. I had more control than I thought, for longer than I realized, but I didn't use it because I believed the wrong story about aging, about time, about what mattered. I believed life would always give me another chance to start, another year to delay, another season to get serious. Life did give me chances, but I kept postponing them. If you're listening to this right now, understand this clearly. Learning too late doesn't mean learning too late to change, but it does mean the cost is higher. The work is harder, the margin is smaller, and the urgency is real. And in the next part, I'm going to tell you exactly what I would do differently if I could go back, not in theory, not in vague motivation, but in practical, daily decisions that protect strength, independence, and dignity as you age. Because regret is only useful if it becomes instruction, and this lesson deserves to be passed on before more years quietly slip away. If I could go back, knowing what I know now at 61, I wouldn't waste time chasing motivation or waiting for perfect conditions, because the first thing I finally understood is that progress only respects consistency, not intention. And I would start with the simplest rule that changes everything. Never negotiate with your future self. I would stop asking how I feel and start deciding what I do, because feelings are unreliable, but habits are loyal. I would make movement non-negotiable, not dramatic, not extreme, but daily and intentional, because I learned too late that your body doesn't need heroic effort. It needs repeated signals that say, I still need strength, I still need balance, I still need power. I would train my legs like my independence depended on it, because it does. And I would stop believing that walking alone is enough, understanding that walking maintains but resistance rebuilds, and without resistance, the body quietly gives up muscle and bone. I would practice standing up from a chair with control, holding balance on one leg even when it felt shaky, strengthening my hips and core even when no one was watching, because I now know that falls don't come from bad luck, they come from unprepared bodies. I would protect my mornings, because the day belongs to whoever claims it first, and I would stop giving my best energy away to everyone else while leaving myself with leftovers. I would sleep with intention, hydrate like it matters, eat for strength instead of convenience, and stop treating recovery like laziness, because recovery is where adaptation happens. I learned too late that pain is not always a warning to stop. Sometimes it's a message to change how you move, how you train, how you care, and ignoring pain doesn't make you tough. It makes you fragile. I would also train my mind with the same discipline as my body, because fear grows where ability shrinks, and confidence is built by proving to yourself daily, that you can still do hard things. I would stop saying, I'm too old to start, and replace it with I'm too aware to delay, because age is not the enemy, neglect is. I would simplify my life instead of complicating it, focusing on fewer commitments done well, fewer excuses tolerated, fewer habits that drain me without giving anything back. I learned too late that stress ages you faster than time, and that saying no is not rejection, it's preservation. I would stop chasing approval, because approval doesn't strengthen your legs, doesn't protect your balance, doesn't help you get back up when you fall. I would stop living on autopilot and start living by design, even if that design was simple, even if progress was slow, because slow progress beats silent decline every time. I would speak to myself differently, not with shame about what I ignored, but with responsibility for what I can still build. Because regret becomes poison when you sit in it, but fuel when you turn it into action. I learned too late that dignity in old age is built decades earlier, one choice at a time, but I also learned that it's never too late to reclaim momentum if you're willing to be honest and disciplined. I would measure success differently, not by how busy I look, but by how capable I remain, how steady my steps are, how confident I feel moving through the world without fear of falling, without fear of becoming dependent. I would remember that independence is not about pride, it's about freedom. The freedom to choose where you go, how you live, and how much help you need. And if you're listening right now, I want you to hear this clearly, not emotionally, not dramatically, but truthfully. You are not broken, you are not finished, and you are not powerless. But every year you delay makes the climb steeper, not impossible, just harder. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can today, not tomorrow, not next month, today, because your future self is already counting on you. I learned this too late, but you don't have to. And if this message reached you at the right moment, don't let it pass like so many warnings I ignored. Take one step today, then another tomorrow, and let discipline do what motivation never could. And if this spoke to you, if it felt real, if it felt like the truth you needed to hear, support this message by liking the video, subscribing to Daily Path to Strength, and sharing it with someone who still thinks they have all the time in the world, because strength shared is strength multiplied.